So before you get your hopes up, Jeff is not singing this morning. I'm not singing this morning. If you weren't here last week, you missed it. Jeff sang to Jody, and she didn't know it was going to happen. It was a song about a hero. So you're thinking, why are we stuck listening to Cory again? Aren't you? I see the look on people's faces. I apologize. You'll have to yell at Jason later because it's his fault. And I'll explain here in a second because Jason is here. We're working on a skeleton crew today. It's just Jason and I. Jeff's off running around. I think Alex might be in the back. Is Alex? We hope he's in the back with your children, yeah. Gail Gams is not here, who makes sure that all of our teacher things are covered. But I think everything's working okay. The air conditioning's on. We had coffee. We had donuts. We got through the singing. John and Lance did a great job. So you're stuck with me again. And there's a reason. In homiletics class, which is preaching class, I don't know if Jason was ever told this, but I was, that you're not supposed to use up here, you're not supposed to use the pulpit or your speaking opportunity to bully people. Now let me put that in perspective. That means if something happens that week that really makes you angry or mad or upset, you're not supposed to speak about it the next week. Because it would be really easy to stand up here and lash out at somebody, even indirectly. Everybody follow me? And I've had moments in my ministry over the last 20 years that I've wanted to lash out at people. And I've refrained as much as I've wanted to. It'd be really easy for us to come up here and spout off, to call people out, to tell them how it is, to step on people's toes, as you might say it. So guess what I'm going to do today? I might be speaking as a bully, and I'll explain why. So I did this on purpose. When I left a ministry in West Virginia and moved to Newark, I preached 4 sermons at the end of my stay in West Virginia and the same exact 4 sermons when I arrived here in Newark. I did that on purpose because I knew it would make me stay on task. I did not end up being that bully. However, today is a different day. I get to speak again. For some of you, you're thinking, oh, Cory, you spoke last week. I wish it was Jason or Jeff. Some of you might be saying in your head, hey, I'm glad it's Cory and not Jason or Jeff. I'm with you. But I'm here this morning to speak from my heart. We're not in a series. Some of you thought we started a series last week about heroes. That was a one-time sermon. Jason was going to speak today on perspectives, which I think he tucked away and he's going to use in the future. And next week, Jeff is going to talk about service because of the poker run. Next week is Poker Run Sunday. So we had what we called this break. We don't have a series going on. We took 3 Sundays and thought, well, we'll just plug something in. And it's worked out well because it kind of let today happen as it did. If you haven't been following on Facebook, Jason and Anna have been on a roller coaster this week. You guys, most of you know that they're foster parents. They have 2 beautiful little girls that come in every Sunday with them. One of them today had on these sharp sunglasses. She's looking good. And we as a church have been on that journey with Jason and Ann, and we have loved those kids just like their family does. It's been really fun to watch for me. The people that have stepped up when Jason and Ann have needed something, it's been there. These youngsters this week, Jason and Ann were told that they were going to be taken from them. No, that's how foster parenting works, but usually you get a little bit more of a heads up. Not only were they told that they were going to be returned to their family, but then they changed their mind halfway through the week. So Jason and Ann and their kids have been on this roller coaster like this. And Jason and I were talking, I can't remember if it was Tuesday night or Wednesday night, as all this was going on. He goes, Cory, I don't know if I can do Sunday. He goes, emotionally, I don't know if I can get up there in front and keep it together. I said, that's okay. It's all right. We'll make it work. We've watched Jason and Ann and their 3 kids be the church for the last 5 months. These little girls don't come from a great background, because if they did, they'd still be at home with their birth parents. But for 5 months, they've gotten to see what a normal family, let me put it together, Ann's coming and she doesn't know what's going on. Can I call Jason and Ann and their kids a normal family? They've been in a loving family. And we've got to watch them. We've prayed for them. We've helped them. We've supported them in numerous other ways. So we have got to watch them be the church as we get to be the church. Be the church. We say it every Sunday as we leave. Don't we? For some of you, that might just be 3 words. And you might walk out of here, and you might go about your week, and nothing ever changes. And you think, well, that's just the way we end at Crossroads. Be the church. What does it mean? What does it look like? For Jason and Ann, for the last 5 months, it's been taking care of those 2 little girls. How does it shape my life? There are times that I'm asked to do things I don't want to do. Believe it or not. My family life, my work life, my church life, there are things I just don't want to do. And there's times that I want to run and not do them. But if we're being the church, it really needs to shape how we interact with people each and every day. Are you being the church? These are all great questions that hopefully we can answer today. The body's an interesting thing. Have you ever thought about the thing that God gave you to live in? This thing that stands on 2 feet and walks around and talks, and this heart that beats in your chest. Did you know your body has enough iron in it to make a nail 3 inches long? During your lifetime, you'll produce enough saliva to fill 2 swimming pools. Be a gross swim, wouldn't it? 1 person in 20 has an extra rib. There are approximately 59,650 miles of blood vessels in the human body. A person will die from the lack of sleep sooner than they will from starvation, which usually takes a few weeks. You are taller in the morning. Throughout the day, the cartilage between your bones is compressed, making you about 1 centimeter shorter by the day's end. So if anybody wants a picture of me by my children, it's got to be in the morning. More germs are transferred shaking hands than kissing. Like fingerprints, every person has a unique tongue print. I hope we never have to give those to people. The strongest muscle in the human body is the tongue, and the hardest bone is the jawbone. Sneezes regularly exceed 100 miles an hour, while a cough clocks in at about 60 miles an hour. The acid in your stomach is strong enough to dissolve razor blades. Don't try it. The brain doesn't feel pain. Even though it processes pain, the brain itself does not actually feel pain. The human heart creates enough pressure to squirt blood 30 feet into the air. Humans are the only animals to produce emotional tears. The human foot has 52 bones. It accounts for 1/4 of all the human body's bones. It is not possible for you to tickle yourself. 2 out of 3 people cannot see perfectly. Your nose can remember 50,000 different scents, and women are better smellers than men. According to most females in my life, they're better listeners too. Your body gives off enough heat in 30 minutes to bring half a gallon of water to a boil. Your brain operates on 10 watts of power, and your hearing decreases as you overheat. Isn't the body such a neat, wonderful thing? It's amazing, it's complex, it's intricate, it functions, it's alive. There are processes in our bodies. I don't understand all of them or how they work. I just know that they do. So we all have these things we're given, these bodies that we were given to walk around in life. And a number of times in Scripture, God uses the body as imagery for how the church works. I think it was interesting that Jason and I hadn't talked about this, and he gets up here and he talks about the, I lost it. This is what happens when you're not ready to preach. What am I looking for, Jay? You just talked about it. Object lessons, yes. Ugh. The church is compared to the body. So we walk around looking at people all the time and our own issues with our own bodies, and God compares the church to a body. We're like these object lessons walking around. And the body of Christ becomes a metaphor. And Paul teaches about it in Corinthians, which is what we're going to look at in a minute. So if you want to turn to Corinthians chapter 12, if you have your Bibles or your electronic device with a Bible. I don't have any slides this morning. I apologize. But I'm going to read about the diversity in the body and how Christ uses this picture. The Corinthian church was divided because of their arrogance. Paul wrote to them because of some of the things they had going on. They weren't getting along, you could say. And he writes this. 1 Corinthians 12, verses 12 through 27. Just as a body, though one, has many parts, but all its many parts form one body, so it is with Christ. We are all baptized by one Spirit so as to form one body, whether Jews or Gentiles, slave or free. We're all given the one Spirit to drink. Even so, the body's not made up of one part, but many. Now, if the foot should say, because I'm not a hand, I do not belong to the body, it would not for that reason stop being part of the body. And if the ear should say, because I'm not an eye, I do not belong to the body, it would for not that reason stop being part of the body. If the whole body were an eye, where would the sense of hearing be? If the whole body were an ear, where would the sense of smell be? But in fact, God has placed the parts in the body, every one of them, just as he wanted them to be. If they were all one part, where would the body be? As it is, there are many parts, but one body. The eye cannot say to the hand, I don't need you. And the head cannot say to the feet, I don't need you. On the contrary, those parts of the body that seem to be weaker are indispensable. And the parts that we think are less honorable, we treat with special honor. And the parts that are unpresentable are treated with special modesty. While our presentable parts need no special treatment, God has put the body together, giving great honor to the parts that lacked it, so that there should be no division in the body, but that its parts should have equal concern for each other. If one part suffers, every part suffers with it. If one part is honored, every part rejoices with it. Now you are the body of Christ. Each one of you is a part of it. And God has placed in the church, first of all, apostles, second, prophets, third, teachers, then miracles, then gifts of healing, of helping, of guidance, of different kinds of tongues. All are all apostles? Are all prophets? Are all teachers? Do all work miracles? Do all have gifts of healing? Do all speak in tongues? Do all interpret? No, eagerly desire the greater gifts. And yet I will show you the most excellent way. They're mad within the Corinthian church because they're not all alike. Because this person can do that, and this person can do that, and this person can do that, but I can't do any of those things. And Paul says it's like the body. The foot wants to be like the hand, and the hand wants to be like the foot, but don't you need both hands and feet? We all need these thumbs. Have you ever broken an arm or injured a leg and you quickly realize, I can't do this very long. I need my hand back. I need my leg back. For some of you, you may have lost something, a finger, an arm, whatever it might be. You know people that have. The struggle it is to get back to be able to do stuff, or how neat it is to watch people that have grown up and are born that way be able to accomplish things without that stuff. I fell out of a tree a few years ago and I broke my hand, my wrist, on my right arm. I'm right-handed. Miserable. You learn things that you take for granted, like going to the bathroom. It's crazy. Drinking a cup of coffee. I never picked up a cup of coffee with my left hand. I always did it with my right. A lot of you know I've had lots of running injuries, and when I read that thing about 52 bones in the foot, I'm like, yep, I think I've broken half of them. When you can't walk, I've been on crutches, they're miserable. You can't do anything without putting a bunch of stuff in a backpack, or the greatest invention that they've made is that little knee scooter. That thing is awesome. But we quickly realize we need different parts of our body. If you can't see, or you can't hear, or you're starting to lose either one of those, you start to realize how important those things are. And this picture that Paul paints is about the church being all of those things. Being the church is being the part of the church that God has made you to be. All of you know that I don't really care. Are there little kids in here? I love little kids as long as I can send them back home to their parents. But there are some people in this building that love kids. That's their element. That's where they love to go. What would the back here be like if it was full of people like me? Be watching the watch. When is Cory going to be done? I'm tired of these kids. Is there a way we could hang them on the wall and their parents can just come pick them back up? We all have a talent. We all have something in our lives that we can do to benefit the kingdom of God. That's what being the church is about. And being the church comes down to loving. Paul goes on in that passage at the end of that, and he says, I will show you the most excellent way. If we would continue to read down through Corinthians, we would come to a point where he would say, love is the most important thing. Loving people is the most important thing. Being the church is loving people. Jesus was the ultimate example of love. Let's go a step further. We talked about this picture, this metaphor of the body being a picture of the church. Everybody in the church has different things that they can do, different things they can accomplish, different ways they can love people. Jesus ultimately loved you in his own body. That he gave it up, that he sacrificed it for your forgiveness. Think about that example. And I go back to what I said at the very beginning. There are some things in life we just don't want to do. Sometimes we have to do them because Christ would have done those things. Jesus was the ultimate example of love, even in his own body. Being the church, I think about when Jeff and Jody went to Haiti a couple years ago with a friend of theirs that has a ministry down there. Does anybody remember what that ministry is called? Hands and Feet. What an awesome name for a mission whose primary goal is to take care of children in an orphanage that don't have moms and dads. Hands and feet. We have to be the hands and feet. So this thing about being the church is so much bigger than us. Sometimes you may have asked the question here at Crossroads, why do we do this that way? Or why don't we do this that way? Or why don't we do this that way? The leadership and Jeff and Jason and I and Alex now, there's some things that you might see us do and go, what are they doing? There is a method behind the madness. And it comes down to being the church. So for a minute, I want us to think this morning about some of the things that maybe you've seen around here that is our people being the church. Because I've been a part of many other churches and I've not seen them do some of the things that we're able to pull off here. If you would go out and talk to people that either plant churches or have been in churches for a long time or want to set up a church, they would look at how Crossroads started and the things that were done in the beginning and the things that we still do and go, there is no way, there's no way that church is going to work. But it does. Not because of us, but because of the Lord. And I think it's because of this focus on being the church. If we would rattle off the number of people that we have here on a Sunday morning, and we don't count you guys, we just roughly know because of the number of chairs here, and tell somebody that we do not have a full-time minister, they'd be like, what? We would tell them we don't have an office in the church building. We would tell them what we are in debt, and it's not that big compared to most churches. And that we have 4 part-time guys, and that our children's ministry kind of is an engine that runs on its own. That whenever we ask for volunteers, it happens. If we would go out and explain that to people, they'd be like, there is no way a church can do that. And we just all hold up our hands and go, I don't know. I looked at Jeff a few weeks ago and said, have you ever thought about the fact that people keep showing up here because they like the music and the praise of God and they're willing to listen to the 3 of us talk? And he goes, I know, it's crazy. And then we get in the pool last Sunday and we baptized 11 people. Never have I seen that anywhere else that I've been. It absolutely astounds me. And I don't take any of the credit. We give it all to him. And it comes back to this idea about being the church. So here are some things that I've watched people being the church around here. And this is not an exhaustive list. This is just the stuff I came up with in the last couple days. Teaching the kids in the back. We've not had a lack of teachers. Have we had to ask at times? Yes. But people seem to step up. If you're not involved in teaching, you don't see the behind-the-scenes things that happen each week to make sure we have teachers back there. This week was such a case because people are on vacation. And the schedule is done for, I think it's 6 months at a time to a year. So there were people trying to figure out, hey, how am I going to do this? And at one point, Gail had tagged Jason and I because if it doesn't happen, it falls to one of us, which I've yet to go to a class because of that. Have you, Jay? No. Somebody always seems to step up or we guilt somebody into teaching. But it worked out. Our young people in the back always have somebody back there. The making of coffee. It seems ridiculous and silly, but if you knew how many pots of coffee go into those things every week, it's astounding at times. To keep up with it, to make sure it's clean, to make sure there's coffee and filters here, all of that, somebody has to do that. The donuts. You've been here before when the donuts are late. Kids gnawing on their hands. Parents almost in tears. It's a wreck. But those donuts get here. Somebody has to make the order. Somebody has to go pick them up. Things happen. The playing on the stage. This doesn't just get thrown together every week. They practice on a weekly basis. And there's times like this morning that just John and just Lance, no big deal. They can do that. There's times that we have 7 or 8 people up here. But they give of their time each week. It's not a paid position. It's not something they have to do. Here they are, because that's where they feel like they need to serve, and that's where they feel like they fit in. Sports camp. We just finished sports camp a week and a half ago. At one point, I looked at Farrah and I said, there are people that are volunteering that I don't know. There's people in charge of our children that the minister doesn't know. That's okay. Because somehow you ended up in that spot and you said, I'm going to do this. Being the church is being willing to step out of your comfort zone and help out. And because of that, I got to know a number of you and your faces and your families this week because you said, hey, I'm going to help do this. How neat it was to see that happening. How about the boxes we've done the last 2 years for Christmas and Thanksgiving time? Jeff figured out the amount of money last year that if we would have just gone and done that ourselves, what it would have cost us. And what you guys brought in and put in these boxes is just crazy, ridiculous amounts. It was upwards of $5,000 between the turkey or the hams. We didn't do turkey. The hams and everything that went in the box. And the first year we did it, we thought 100 is like kind of a lofty goal. And then we ended up with like 30 more boxes, just the actual boxes. So Jeff's like, yeah, let's go for 130. And then last year we did 150 boxes. Just crazy stuff like that is being done. That's the out front stuff. That doesn't mention the stuff behind the scenes. People that call each other, people that take meals to each other, people that are checking on one another, cards that are sent in the mail, words of encouragement, cleaning up around here, mopping up spills. I could go on and on and on and on. But the church here is being the church. It's alive. It's this group of people that feel like this is where I need to be, this is the gathering I want to be a part of, and this is the community I want to help. Being the church. John, if you want to join me, John's going to help us out this morning. I hope he can handle it by himself. We're going to finish up here in a moment. And I don't know if I've ever spoken about my friend named Crockett. Crockett's a good buddy of mine. We went to school together, and then we served together for a brief time. He was the youth minister at a ministry I was at. And he left that ministry and went on to Georgia, and then he left a ministry in Georgia to go and plant churches. And when he was doing that, he had to come up with a certain amount of churches that would support him financially. That's just how the church planting world works. And he sent me an email, and he said, hey, would you think Crossroads would be interested in supporting you as I plant a church? And I said, no. He said, what? He thought I was like a ringer. We were gonna send him so much money a month. And we were gonna help get him off his feet. And I said, no. And he goes, well, what kind of church are you a part of? Like he got defensive. He said, you guys don't help people? You don't serve? You don't support outside groups? He goes, you probably, and he was giving me a hard time. He goes, you probably keep all the money for yourselves, don't you? I said, no. We don't. I said, we do a lot of stuff in our community. I said, nothing against where you're going and what you're doing, and I pray for you, but where I'm at right now, it's a different congregation. And he said, what do you mean? I said, we honestly take what we're given and we do stuff in the community. He goes, you mean like you invite people into your building? No, Crockett, you don't understand. We go outside of our building. We do stuff. We're the church in the community. And it kind of took him back that we weren't willing. But I said, Crockett, we're being the church where we're located and doing what we're trying to do. Be the church. We say it every week as we close. So what does it mean to you? Are you doing your part out of love for your neighbors, for those that you work with, for the people here you know that are hurting? What does it look like? It's simple. It's being Jesus' hands and feet. Jesus is no longer here physically, but he left the church. And Paul draws this beautiful picture of the fact that we are this body. All of you in this room have a different talent. I don't want you to sit there and think, well, John and Lance were given the ability to play instruments and sing, and that's so much greater than me being able to unclog a toilet. That's so much greater than me being able to maybe clean up somebody's yard or take a neighbor to the doctor's appointment or to make sure my neighbor right now in this kind of weather has what they need when it comes to being cool. Don't equate what you're able to do with what somebody else is able to do, because remember, the foot can't be the hand. I can't run on my hands. I'd break my face. I can walk around on my feet. I can use them for what they're there for. Find what you're there for. Realize that you're Jesus' hands and feet. How does it shape up in your life? So, simple question to close with. Are you being the church? I want you to stand with me right now. A question to contemplate as we sing, as we leave this place today. Are you being the church?